Today I have a bit of a touchy subject because when I was gathering questions for the Q&A, one thing that was asked is what is the hardest part of becoming a Lolita or starting to wear Lolita fashion? And I thought that it's such a big question that I would make a video completely about the subject instead of answering it with a couple of sentences. So here we are. And I'm going to divide my answer into two pieces. One is financial and one is mental or psychological. But first I'm going to start with my own experience so that you have a bit of context for whatever I am about to share with you, because everyone's situation is different and so on and so on. So I was first interested in Lolita fashion for a long time before I started wearing it, but I didn't talk about it to anyone because it never really seemed like something I would actually do. It was just something pretty to watch on the internet. So when I actually did start, it was in January 2013, which sounds like a long time ago. And I was 20 at the time, and I was living with my parents, and I was going to school, but I also had a part-time job, which meant that I had some money to spend how I wished. But even though I lived with my parents, I paid my phone bill and gas money for my car and such. I know that every family is different, but I had to pay for my own things. So I didn't have a lot of money to just kind of on the internet on Lolita. So I lived with my parents, I had a bit of money, and I was 20, so I was, an adult, so to speak. And I'm sharing this with you because it is a very different situation if you live on your own or with a partner than with your parents, or how old you are. That also has a big impact on the discussion here. But that was my situation, and now let's start with the financial part. Because Lolita can be expensive. You don't have to wear a brand to be a Lolita. I want to just, every time I have the chance to say it, I want to say it. Brand is not needed in Lolita fashion. It's something fun to own, but it does not define you as a Lolita if you have a brand or if you don't have brand. But even with off-brand or indie brand or second-hand, it is still more expensive than so-called normal fashion, so you do need money. Now, for example, if you're underage, I know a lot of people in the Finnish forum that is actually right now dying because no one's in there anymore. A lot of people wrote that they are 13, 14, 15, they don't have any income, and their parents hate Lolita. They don't understand what it is. They think it's a cosplay or age play or some weird kinky shit, and I'm going to do a whole video about that another day, kind of what to say to parents or that kind of video, like explaining what Lolita is and is not. But anyway, their parents don't like it and they don't want to give you any money. They don't want to give you $300 to buy dresses. And at that point there's not really all that much you can do, because if you get allowance, you can spend that as you will. But the sad thing is that money is required. And an easy way around it is to do what I did, and that is to start by making clothes. And my mom is awesome. She actually helped me making my first clothes, and they turned out better than expected. And I just started making them because I wasn't sure if this was something I would want to do, because my old style was very tomboy, punk rock, goth, so it had nothing to do with cakes or anything. So it was, I had no intention of putting a lot of money into it at first. I just wanted to kind of try and see what it was. So you can find a lot of cool fabrics for cheap, and I do there are good cheap fabrics and there are horrendous cheap fabrics, but pretty much if you pick a cotton that has some kind of Lolita appropriate print on it and you make the skirt long enough so that it's almost to your knees, 50 centimeters is about norm, then it can look good. And that is what I did, and that is how I saved a lot of money at first. But if you can't make things on your own, for example if you don't have a sewing machine, it's a pain to make them by hand because it has 2 or 3 meters around so that it can fit a petticoat, so that's a lot of hand sewing. Then what you can do is look for items that you can modify. For example, a cute skirt that is long enough and fits a petticoat under it, but it's kind of plain. Then you can maybe decorate it, add some lace, or if it's a bit too short, you can add chiffon to the bottom, or anything like that. You can make DIY projects, and that's also an easy way to see if you like the fashion or not. Kind of taking pieces that can be altered or that can be kind of casual Lolita or Lolita inspired, and then take those and wear those, and then if you wear those in front of your parents, then they can see that it's just a frilly blouse and a long skirt with poof, then maybe they can understand a bit better and then maybe give you more allowance or allow you to spend your money on Lolita. But financial, it can be a problem, and for me right now it's kind of becoming a problem because in case you don't know, I just moved and it's a bigger place and it's more of an expensive place, so I don't have nearly as much to spend on Lolita right now. But luckily I have a pretty big collection. If you've seen my wardrobe video, I'll link it somewhere. I don't necessarily need all that much anymore. So to round up, financial wise, it is best if you can get a part-time job, or if you can do something around the house to get more allowance if you're underaged, or anything, kind of save all the money you get for presents like birthday and Christmas or whatever you celebrate, and just kind of go from there if you can't make things on your own. And then on to the second part, which is mental kind of psychological issues. And so, scenario, you have all the money you need to get the clothes that you want, and now you have them at your house, and now you're faced with the question, how the hell do I wear this in public? And I would like to start by saying that in my case I was again lucky because I've always worn, for the lack of better word, alternative clothes, so my parents were used to me looking weird so I had no opposition there. But if you have a school that is very strict with the clothing that you can wear there, then again there's not a lot that you can do, unfortunately, because rules are rules. Luckily Finland doesn't have any kind of that thing, you can wear whatever you want to any school, but I know that around the world that is not the case. So you have to respect the rules of your school, or if you're at work and they have kind of rules as to what you can wear or even have a uniform. For example, I work at a bookstore and we have a uniform. There's kind of a set of there's a set of pants and skirts that you can choose from, and then there are blouses that you can choose from, and then we have a kind of vest with pockets. So I cannot wear Lolita to my job, but it is also easy because when I worked at an office as a kind of accountant, God, I hated that job. I had to wear kind of official normal clothes, so we didn't get any clothes from the work, so it was a pain in the ass to kind of, we had a locker where you can change clothes, but if I'm going to put the neat clothes on in the morning, then when I leave work it's a lot of work to kind of put on Lolita clothes and then come home. So what I did was I ended up not wearing Lolita kind of only on free days, because it was such a hassle, whereas now that I have a uniform, it's somehow easier to put Lolita on in the morning, then go to work, then change clothes, and after I get off from work I change into Lolita again and go about my day. But if your school or work has rules, respect them, because even though it's nice to be a unique little snowflake, it can get you fired or expelled, so respect the rules. So now that we have that out of the way, let's talk about school. If you want to wear Lolita to school, and you can wear it, there is a question of how people will react. Depending on how you've worn before it, maybe if you had really frilly and girly clothes and you're going for a bit more toned down Lolita, maybe not a lot of people even notice the difference, but for example in my case, the change was very radical and very big and very like in your face. But it wasn't a problem for me because I've always looked weird and I've always got weird looks and weird comments, so I didn't really have anything to complain about. And I'll make a different video in confidence in and out of Lolita as well, because at first I thought I could make all of these three into one video, and then I realized that I cannot. So it's hard to start wearing Lolita if you're concerned about what your friends will think. If you don't have any friends who wear Lolita fashion, it can be a bit hard and you can get a lot of comments depending on your friends. But again, it's an age-old fact and saying that if your friends only are your friends because of how you look, then they're not good friends. But I can completely understand the feeling of losing your friends, and that shit ain't fun. For context, again, I've always had very little friends because I was a very weird kid. I usually had one good friend and maybe two people that I could casually talk to. But at one point there was almost 2 years when I didn't have a single friend or anyone at my school who I could casually talk to. The only person around my age who I could talk to was my big sister, who is 2 years older than me. So I was kind of used to being on my own, so I didn't give two shits about what anyone thought of me. And I have found a lot of friends through Lolita, all the lovely Lolitas who are at our meetups. I have, if you look at my blog, I have photos of our meets always. I have met all of those people through Lolita, but it can be daunting to think that your friends can leave you if you start wearing Lolita. And the only advice I can give you on that is that you can start by talking about Lolita to them, about showing photos to them, not like, hey, I'm gonna look like this tomorrow, yay! But kind of feel the waters, like talk about, oh, I found this thing on the internet, have you heard about this? And then kind of see what they think about it. And if they end up hating it and thinking it looks like trash and you still want to do it but you're afraid of losing friends, then there is no other way than to either wear the fashion or don't. But I always say that it is best to really do what you want to do, because in the end you will end up a lot of regrets if you don't do things in life that you want to do because of social fears. But I again completely understand the fear. And now we have landed on a situation where you have the money to buy the items and you have awesome friends who support you. But now you're faced with the fact of how do I combine Lolita fashion into your everyday life? And I want to clear out again that in order to wear Lolita fashion, you do not have to be a so-called lifestyle Lolita. I am not. I wear Lolita once or twice a week, and when I'm not wearing Lolita, I wear completely different clothes. I have a lookbook of my normal styles, and that does not make me a bad Lolita, because Lolita in the end is just about clothes. So you wear them when you want to wear them, where you want to wear them. For example, if you're still at school and you have gym that day, maybe it is not practical to wear a complete Lolita outfit because it takes a lot of time to change in and out of it. So maybe the days that you have gym, just don't wear it. If it's impractical, just wear it tomorrow. And you do not also have to stop your so-called un-Lolita hobbies. You can still play football, you can still do anything that you want. You can go rock climbing. Nobody gives a shit. Not everything in your life has to be Lolita appropriate, which I find is a big misconception among people who are interested in Lolita, but they don't want to change their whole life to fit the Lolita aesthetic, and that is not something that you have to do. That is not something that I do. I have friends who absolutely fit the Lolita lifestyle, who have really pretty and girly hobbies, and their outside of Lolita fashion is very atomic hey and very pretty and frilly and girly, and that's okay too. Because it's just one part of your life and you can make that part as big or small as you want. You don't have to wear Lolita every day, you can wear it once or twice a week or once or twice a year, and you can still be a Lolita. It doesn't matter. And that was it for my rambly what is the hardest part of starting Lolita fashion or becoming a Lolita. And if you have any questions, like something you would like me to clarify, because I know that this was a rambly video, leave them down below. Or if you have questions about something that I didn't even touch on, I will answer all comments. Or if you have any requests on future videos, whether it be tutorials or advice or talky things, leave them down below. And I will see you again next Wednesday. Bye!